Hello, and welcome to the Manure Maiden podcast. My name is Tabitha. I'm the co-director of Esperanza Sanctuary, and today we are discussing the desert garden battlefield. We live in the Coachella Valley. So now if you're growing food out there, you know this is a unique environment. We are not just talking about the heat. We're talking about keeping your plants safe in a high-stakes environment from pests. Specifically, we are going to be focusing on cucurbits. That's the fancy name for the family that gives us melons, squash, and cucumbers. These are high-value crops in the desert and for most families, but they basically walk around or grow ground with a target on their back. We are going to break down exactly who is trying to eat your lunch, literally, how to identify them, and more importantly, how to stop them using a strategy called Integrated Pest Management or IPM. If you've never heard of IPM, don't worry. Think of it like this. Old school pest control was like using a sledgehammer to crack a nut, and you just sprayed everything everywhere. IPM is more like running a high-security building. You use management strategies, fences, cameras, and you only call for emergency assistance when you absolutely have to. So let's start talking about the bad guys. If you are planting melons or squash in the Coachella Valley, there are 5 or 6 usual suspects that you need to know. And the first part of the need to know is identifying these pests. If you don't know what they are, you can't exactly stop them. So first up, we have the suckers, or Hemiptera. These are insects that pierce plant tissue and drink the fluids, kind of like how a mosquito does to us. So the first one is aphids, and most people have seen these, specifically the green peach aphid and the melon aphid. They are tiny and pear-shaped, and a great way to ID them is to look at their rear end. They have 2 little tubes sticking out the back that look like mufflers or tailpipes, and if you can see that without a magnifying glass, you're already better off than I am. They are dangerous because they suck the sap and they can transmit nasty viruses from one plant to another. Next up, we have whiteflies, specifically the silverleaf whitefly. These are very tiny, minuscule, small, little pests. When they are resting on a leaf, they hold their wings over their body like a little roof. Then we have leafhoppers. These are wedge-shaped bugs that are also sucking pests. Next up is squash bugs, and this is a big one. The squash bug belongs to the order Hemiptera, which are true bugs. You can identify them by their triangle shape on their back, and similar to the aphids, they have piercing sucking mouth parts that look like a jointed beak. Then you have the invisible enemy, which are root knot nematodes. You will never see them crawling on the leaves as they are microscopic worms that live in the soil. They attack the root system of your plant. So if your plant looks sickly or stunted in growth, especially compared to those near it, and you can't find bugs on the leaves, the problem might be underground. While sucking insects are a major headache in the desert, you also have to watch out for chewers, like beetles. You can tell the difference because of the damage they leave. If you see actual holes bitten out of leaves or flowers, you're more likely dealing with something that has chewing mouth parts, like a beetle or a caterpillar. So now that we know what they are, how do we stop them? In the Coachella Valley, because the pressure from these pests is so high, we focus on prevention. In the world of IPM, we call this cultural control. It's about changing the environment so these pests can't get comfortable. That can include planting aromatic herbs and companion planting with things that those pests don't like, but will also attract beneficial pests that eat the things that we want to prevent. In addition to that, we can use cover crop and trap crops. Trap crops are plants that we plant nearby that those pests will also feed on, and happily while leaving the rest of our crops alone. There's an additional really cool trick that you can do, which is creating a section of row covers. The University of California recommends using them for exactly this reason. So when we are using row covers, we are using a physical fabric barrier over our plants. Think of it like a screen door. It physically excludes the leafhoppers, the squash bugs, and the whiteflies that we talked about. If they can't land on the plant, they cannot transmit viruses. Additionally, we can do what's called silver reflective mulch. It acts like a mirror and it reflects UV light up into the sky. And this can actually help confuse insects like aphids and whiteflies by disorienting them so they don't land on the crops. It can be a highly effective repellent. It can also prevent birds from coming down and eating the fruits and vegetables that you are growing. However, a very big warning for our desert listeners. If the temperatures get excessive, you may need to remove that mulch so you don't cook your plants. Then the unglamorous part. You need to clean your equipment. Whether it's a tractor or your hand tools, you need to clean them between fields or planting areas. This prevents you from accidentally carrying weed seeds, soil diseases, pest eggs, or microscopic nematodes from a dirty patch of soil to a clean one. Even then, with silver mulch and row covers, sometimes the bugs get in. And this is where the management part of integrated pest management comes in. So we don't just go spraying the second that we see a bug. We follow a concept called the economic threshold. This concept was developed way back in 1959 by researchers Stern, Smith, Vanden Bosch, and Hagen. The idea is simple. You treat the pest when the cost of the damage that they are about to do is higher than the cost of the treatment. If you have a low population of pests that isn't really hurting the harvest, you let nature handle it. You don't want to wipe out the good bugs, the predators, and the parasites by spraying too early. And the biggest question that we all have is, how do we know when to act? So for sucking insects in the Coachella Valley, you can use yellow sticky traps. You'll place these around the planted area, and it acts as a census because the bugs will be attracted to the color and they will get stuck. You can check them to see how many silverleaf whiteflies or aphids are sticking to them. This tells you if a population is spiking. However, you do need to place this in a way that rodents and reptiles cannot access for their own safety. Although IPM traps are often not as sticky as pest control traps, which should be banned in my opinion, it is not worth the risk. So use hardware cloth boxes around them can assist in vertical placement on a stake at a higher level as well. For bigger bugs like squash bugs, you can go very low tech. In areas like Mono County, and applicable in other areas as well, gardeners have successfully controlled them by hand. We here use tape to take off any egg masses from the bottom sides of leaves, but you can also scrape them off by hand. You can trap the adults and physically remove them by using tape or using tweezers from the plant. If the traps tell you that the population is exploding, then that crop is threatened. Then you can use chemical controls. But you can choose to be selective about your insecticides and use only insecticides that kill the pest but spare beneficial insects. If you have a known problem with root knot nematodes and you didn't treat the soil before planting, you may need to use specific treatments approved for cucurbits. We on site at Esperanza's use a beneficial nematode called Steinernemia felicae. We also use cover crops and compost for tree rootstock that is nematode resistant, as well as incorporate our on-site cured compost to the soil whenever possible. So, to wrap this up, growing melons and squash in the Coachella Valley is a battle against some very specific enemies: aphids, whiteflies, squash bugs, and nematodes, and is a really great reminder on why companion planting and biodiversity are so important. Always remember, we are not trying to eradicate every single insect. That's not only impossible and environmentally damaging, it's also very expensive. We are trying to manage host plant stress. We want to make the plant strong enough to handle a little pest pressure and use our row covers and mulches and our companion planting to help keep the pest numbers low. We want to move away from just killing pests and move toward managing the whole system. If you look closely at your plants, identify the mouth parts. Is it chewing? Is it sucking? Use reflective mulches and monitor those sticky traps. You will have a great start to having a great harvest. Thanks again for listening, and we'll see you in the garden.